Hey guys, so I was laying in bed last night and I started having these thoughts about RuneScape as a person does who won't stop playing this freaking game, and I started thinking about this grind that I've been on for the past few days, and I've been down here in Camdesol. Well, right now I'm at the Barbarian Village fishing, but I've been in Camdesol for the past few days trying to get that freaking mace. I've gotten both the pieces from the mining and from the fishing, but now I'm killing golems for I don't know, days on end now. I think I'm somewhere around 170. I've been splitting it up amongst my phone and also the actual client, so I can't see everything that I've killed during this time, but it's been a lot of them. And it's taking a long time, but as I was thinking about the kind of gear progression that happens in RuneScape, I was starting to really think about how this game is just so much different from every other MMO that I play. And I thought that I would sort of talk about why I think that the gear progression in RuneScape feels so unbelievably good. Like why I'm so willing to grind for a mace in RuneScape for days on end, but in World of Warcraft, I have a hard time committing to getting my absolute top best in slot gear for my character whenever I've gotten up to that point. And I think that it comes down to like a couple of key traits. One of which I think is that the fact that there's these easy to understand tiers in RuneScape that have been here for a long time, right? When you're playing this game, you know that you're starting out in bronze gear, and then as you progress forward, you sort of know that there's these like five sections of the game that you get to. You start off with what I would call the craftable gear section, which is everything from bronze to runite. And you know that once you get to rune, that you have the best gear that you're going to have as this sort of easy to achieve gear. There's basically no quest requirements to wielding rune gear, unless you count your Dragon Slayer quest in order to wear the rune plate body. But after that, you step into the questable gear. You know, you get your dragon items after that. You get your dragon longsword, your dragon scimitar. In that same sort of tier, I would put all of the other questing items like your anchor or your brine saber. These kinds of pieces of gear that start to become the early mid game gear, the things that are going to take you more squarely into the mid game gear. And then after you do all of that, you're going to end up in your actual mid-game gear, which is like your mini-game accessible gear. So your third, or not your third age, your Void Knight, your Barrows gear, your Tombs of a Masket gear, those kinds of pieces of gear. These things that you're going to get from doing raids, from doing mini games, from doing dungeons, these pieces of gear that everyone knows and talks about, but they're a little bit more shut off from the rest of the game. And then you step into the late game gear, and this is basically all of the gear that is actually in RuneScape is these sets. You know, you're going to cap out around Justiciar and these rechargeable pieces. I know I'm probably missing a lot of things, but within that, there's a whole lot of variety of different things that you can do, but there's such a small and finite amount of gear in RuneScape that anybody can feasibly understand and memorize what all of that gear actually is. And it's so defined in its look and style that you have the ability to sort of get this feeling that I want to get that piece of gear because it looks really cool, or I hear people talking about it a lot. You know, I want my Bofa, I want my Twisted Bow, I want my Ancient Magics, I want these pieces of gear that everyone talks about and uses. Whereas in World of Warcraft, I'm just going to keep referring back to World of Warcraft during this whole video, so, you know, it's both these games have been on my mind a lot lately, and I've been sort of thinking about why the juxtaposition between the two of them, so just cut me some slack on responding or referring to World of Warcraft over and over again. This is why I think that I'm so much less willing to do these in-game raids in World of Warcraft, is because I don't know what any of the gear is. Maybe it's because I haven't been playing for a super long time, but is there actually anybody out there who cares about tier whatever sword or magic staff or what. Is there any weapons nowadays being put in that game that people actually see and go, oh, that's the new weapon that everyone wants? Is that really a thing, or are they just giving you reskinned versions with different stats of the exact same weapons over and over again that no one really cares about? I mean, I think that that's such an odd thing to do in MMOs. And there's so much change that has happened in World of Warcraft over the years that basically the transmogs that you're getting for the late game gear in that, or for the transmogs that you're getting in that game, the ones that people care about are ones that were really popular way back in the day, and the new ones, people really don't even know what they are. They just look at them and they go, oh, I guess that's a late game piece of gear, but I have no clue what it is. And in RuneScape, it's such a different thing, you know? There are no transmogs. Like, you know exactly what weapon I'm using right now, and everybody who sees me using this weapon knows what weapon this is. Everyone who's played this game for more than 30 hours knows what weapon this is. You know what boots I'm wearing. You know what legs I'm wearing. You know what chest I'm wearing. You know what amulet I have on currently. You know. That's such an important thing in the community aspect of people being excited when you finally get the drop for the thing that you want. When people see me walking around with this mace later on, they're going to know exactly what I did in order to get this mace, and it's going to, you know, it creates a culture where everyone sort of has a similar understanding of how to and why you get every single item that you get. The items are such a big deal and something that we all care about because of the knowledge that we all have about the grind associated with getting them. There is such a disjunction in games like World of Warcraft with the ability to actually get the things that you want. People have no idea what you have to do in order to get late game gear, and you get there so unbelievably quickly. RuneScape is a game that you can play for hundreds and hundreds of hours before you actually get to the late game scenarios to where you have to do raids in order to get the drops that you want. And once you finally get there, everybody is looking for the same gear from those drops. Everybody wants the same things from Tombs of a Mascot. Everybody wants the same things from Temple of Blood. Everybody wants these same Theater of Blood, not Temple of Blood, sorry. Everybody wants these same things, and it makes us sort of know where we're all heading, and that just helps us out so much with the understanding of the game knowledge. World of Warcraft has this problem that I think is basically impossible to solve in a traditional style MMO, where everything is split up into not only different classes, but also different styles. So you think about the fact that when you're in a raid with a whole bunch of other people, the only people who really know what drop you're going to get matters are the people who are in the same class as you. So if you're playing a warlock, the items that you're looking for are going to be only similar to other warlocks or mages or people who are wearing the same gear sets as you, unless you're getting a ring, which in that case, rings just... I know that rings are some of the best items, and jewelry and accessories are some of the best items in World of Warcraft to get, but nobody sees them and nobody cares about them. So it doesn't have the same standout wow factor. It's like, yeah, that is a really cool shiny stick that you're holding in your hands, but did you just buy that from the store, or is that an actual thing that you earn from in-game? I have no idea because I don't play your class, so why would I ever know why that weapon is really, really good? Something else that I think is really interesting about the way that people go about getting gear in these two games, and the reason that I think that RuneScape stands out as being distinctly better in this way, is the rotation of the grind is so much better, and the grind in general is so much better. Like, I'm trying to get a weapon right now that is really, really good for my class, are really, really good for my play style and for what I'm doing in this game. So I basically have no access to using the Grand Exchange because of the playthrough that I'm currently doing on this character. So I need to be able to get a weapon that hits pretty hard, and I'm still in free-to-play because I haven't started the next leg of my journey of being in members. So one of the only options for me to actually get this weapon is down here in Camdazal, which is very early game content, and I'm killing these enemies, training up my stats. I'm having to leave regularly to go and get food. I'm having to to fight hundreds of this enemy, and it's all such a simple grind that anyone can understand it. You get your food, you come down here, you fight golems, you wait for the drop to happen. Now, this is not a new thing in MMOs, the idea of doing something over and over again to get a drop. But what this is a new idea in is the concept that low level enemies, that enemies in the world actually have items that you want to get from them. Maybe this is once again because of I've only have a couple hundred hours into World of Warcraft, so I just don't know what low level enemies would drop an item that I actually would care about. But are there any reasons to actually kill mobs inside of World of Warcraft other than leveling up your character in a mad dash to get to endgame? Not really. RuneScape is the only game that I think has this sort of feeling of these mobs that are what other people would consider trash mobs in other MMOs have an importance. They have a drop table of items that you actually want to get from them, and that means that there's a purpose to doing the content that exists inside of this world for everyone who plays the game, not just for people who are doing insane little. Look at this guy. Does this guy have the mace already? This guy has the mace already. Do you see that? That's the mace that I want to get from that guy. And I recognize that mace whenever I see it because I want it so bad. And I've been down here for days trying to get it. It is such a different kind of feeling to be in here fighting these enemies over and over again than it is to be queuing up for a raid once a week and trying to get the thing, than it is to be running the same dungeon over and over again and just going through the dungeon waiting for that one boss. Because every single time that you kill an enemy in this area, every single time that I kill one of these golems, my breath is held, hoping that this grind is finally going to be over and I can move on to the next section of what I want to do in RuneScape. And that is such a thing that an experience that you only get in this game. I mean, you might get it in RuneScape 3 as well. I haven't played RuneScape 3 yet, but I I just think it's absolutely unique. There's a reason that people continuously come back to this game over and over again, and WoW has become a game that people take these weird little breaks from, where the content comes out, you do the content, you experience the content, and then your playtime is basically over. People have found such joy in challenging themselves to do these little, I'm not even playing an Iron Man, but I'm playing this character in this really specific way where I'm sort of experiencing all of free to play and getting my stats up to a place that I need to to be in order to feel like I can actively go into members and not waste any of my time. And I think that, it's such a unique experience to this game. There's not much else like it in the world where you feel like, oh, there's such a breadth of content in the different areas that I personally want to get everything. I mean, look at the collection logs, dude. Like, there's just. Let me get out of this combat first. There are so many items to get in different areas, and there are so many ways of getting those items, or so many different varied methods for not for each individual item, but for all of the items. So you have to experience so much content in order to get them. You will go to so many different places and fight so many different enemies that have different defensive styles and different, attack styles. So you'll have to use different gear sets in order to get there. And it all sort of like meshes together in this really interesting way. It's the grinding is broken up into smaller sections. So let me talk about that for a minute, right? For all of these items, the grind is going to be very, very simple and easy to understand. There's no giant. I mean, there are giant raids later on, but there's no giant, raid that you have to go in dead content to unlock some mount that was popular 10 years ago, but nobody does anymore because they don't actually want the item. Everything in this game is active content and is broken up into these little tiny bite-sized morsels that are pretty easy to understand. Now, your grind as you get further on into the game will advance and become slightly different. So currently my grind for this area and what I'm doing here amounts to fight golems, go get food. Fight golems, go get food. So you saw earlier on the place that I was at and fishing in. that's where I'm going to get my food. It's less than, I don't know, a 2 minute walk away from where I am currently. And all I have to do is go there and fish and then cook those fish and then come back and fight these enemies. And then another small part is going and getting feathers whenever I run out of those for fishing bait. But everything in my inventory, these two items, and then all the food that I have is all that I need to be able to actively do this grind along with the equipment that I have equipped. Whereas in World of Warcraft, people spend all week getting their items ready to go and do a raid to get a single chance at getting the item that they do. And I just find that to be a less fun experience because I think that the dopamine hits are further and fewer between. And I think that this method of doing this is so much better because it progresses over time. You might eventually get to a point to where your steps include going and getting potions. You might get to a point to where your steps include going around and fighting other enemies for drops so that you can then make those potions, and then you have to go and make those potions, and then you go and get your food, and it adds on as you get further and further into the game, but you have a long enough time to actually be able to get to those points. Whereas in those other games, I mean, in World of Warcraft, it takes you less than 40 hours of playtime to get to in-game content, which I just think is not enough. It is not long enough for you to be able to actively understand how you need to do everything to get to where you need to go. Like, one of the biggest problems that I had in that game when I was first starting out, and I honestly kind of want to make a beginner series for World of Warcraft at some point so that people can understand how to get into that game, because if any game needs a methodology of how to get there that's concise and straightforward from the beginning, it's World of Warcraft. Because when I got to endgame in World of Warcraft, I was so unbelievably confused about what I'm supposed to do in order to actually get the items that I want and how to know what items that I want. And people say all of these annoying things like, oh, just go and find some items that look interesting to you and then make those your goal and try to get them. And I just think to myself, yeah, but in this game, there are so many items. How am I supposed to know which ones are interesting? There almost needs to be a community forum for World of Warcraft where people just list every single item that is worth your time getting and of note, and then you can look through that list and has pictures of it, so you can look through that list and try to figure out what it is that you want. Whereas in RuneScape, you can literally just go over to your stats. This is going to be hard because I'm in content. And then you can open it up and you can see all the different items that you might want throughout this game. You can see your Fremennik helmets, and then you can Google how to get your Fremennik helmets. You can see how to, there is a helmet called the Helm of Night. Night is not, I can never remember how to pronounce this name. And you can see that there are tons of people wearing this. You can see the torso that everyone is wearing, and you can go, oh, I want that fighter's torso. Where do I get it? Oh, it's in this mini game called the Barbarian Assault. Let me go and do that mini game for the next 10 hours and get this torso. You can see the obsidian armor that people are wearing for their strength bonus, and you can go get it. As you go further, you can see the Bandos armor that people are wearing, the Barrows armor that people are wearing. You can see the Justiciar armor that people are wearing, and you can easily track down how to get this gear and start doing that grind to then achieve your goal of getting that gear. And I think in almost every other MMO, you just don't care about the gear, you don't know how to get it, and it doesn't really feel that good to get it. And that's what I think is so much different about the gear progression of this game that makes everyone want to do it and everyone keep coming back to doing it so that they can achieve it. Grinds will kill you early on, and you will get so bored and you will take these breaks, but then you'll come back, you'll remember exactly where you are, and you'll get it on your third or fourth drop. And that is just such a different feeling. The content is not becoming dead as you continue playing, and it doesn't push you out of the game. It keeps you in it. And that's what I think is so amazing about the grind in this game.